They told us at first, she just had 3 tumors near the base of her skull. They were going to be super easy to take out. I thought it was just going to be a simple procedure. And then that turned into a 12, 13, 14-hour surgery. And they called us in the middle of the night and told us it was a glioblastoma, which is terminal cancer, stage 4, and that she had about 6 months to live. My world came crashing down. It was like just blackness. It was darkness. It was panic.
Hand in Hand explores life's toughest moments and the resilience that carries us through. I'm your host, Amanda Spiro. Together, we'll dive into stories of grief, healing, and hope, blending timeless Jewish wisdom with personal journeys and universal truths. Let's navigate life's challenges and uncover the paths that lead us to greater meaning and connection. Welcome back. I'm Amanda Spiro, your host of the Hand in Hand podcast. In today's episode, I'll be chatting with Morgan Buchsbaum, who is one of those people who just radiates joy, even though she's been through so much. She was the primary caregiver of her mother. She ended up getting married by her mother's bedside. And since then, she's jumped into Jewish life, had a baby, and is now training to help other people who are going through grief. This episode is exceptionally meaningful for me because Morgan was one of my students and I watched you grow throughout your journey. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us a little bit of background.
That was an amazing intro. Thank you, Miranda. So I am 29. I am secular Jewish. I got married 2 years ago. I just had a baby 5 months ago. I have a business degree from McGill, and I was working in fashion marketing before my mother got ill, and I quit my job to become her full-time caregiver.
Mm-hmm. You worked with your mother also, right?
So I worked with my mother when I was younger. It was a lot of photocopying, but I definitely learned a ton of communication skills from her and watching her own a business. And, she was larger than life. And that taught me a lot of the skills I used in my work. And I really always just wanted to be just like her. So that's why I started in fashion marketing. And when she got sick, it was, the theme of my life was just always her and I. So I felt that that's where I needed to be.
Right. And growing up, it was just you and your mother?
Yeah. So,
and what was that bond like, just the two of you?
Yeah, it was extremely intense. I was raised by a single mother. She owned her own business, so she was juggling a ton of things. But being a mother was always super, super important to her. And I'm also an only child. So on top of that, it just made us that much more close. She was traveling a lot when I was younger. And, we didn't have any other family. So my grandparents were Holocaust survivors. And they were a lot older when I was born. So they were super sick when I was young. So we really didn't have any help at all. I was really, really super dependent on just her. And I, since I can remember, I've just always navigated the world as if it was just her and I in it. So she was my entire world. I think anyone who knows us knows that bond, it looks different and it feels a lot different. So I wouldn't categorize it as just a mother-daughter relationship. It's so hard to put into words. She was my best friend. She was my parent. She was my mentor. She was like a sister at times, but it's there's no word for it. It's otherworldly. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And your mother was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer during COVID, which was already such a difficult time.
Yeah.
So how did you navigate that? I'm sure it was very isolating.
It was extremely isolating. The hospitals had so many more, safeguards around people coming into the hospital. And, because of that, a lot of patients were completely alone. I never wanted her to be alone for a second. So there was really just a few days I can count that she was without me. But from sunup to sundown, I was with her the entire time. Yeah, it was just completely devastating. They told us at first, she just had 3 tumors near the base of her skull. They were going to be super easy to take out. So I thought it was just going to be a simple procedure. And then that turned into a 12, 13, 14-hour surgery. And they called us in the middle of the night and told us it was a glioblastoma, which is terminal cancer, stage 4, and that she had about 6 months to live. So it was super heavy. And my world came crashing down. It was like just blackness. It was darkness. It was
I'm sure
immediate.
You were super overwhelmed.
Yeah, it was panic. And I feel like because also it was COVID, everyone was just in their own little bubbles. Not only did I not have
proper support, like people couldn't even come visit you.
Exactly. I wanted her to be safe, and I didn't want her to get COVID, and so that completely lessened our immediate support. And
how did you cope with this?
I don't think I did cope for a really long time. Thank God I had my really close friends and my husband. Well, not
who wasn't your husband,
who was
then.
not my husband at the time. That was a big test for him. I knew I needed to keep going for her, and I needed to be there for her. But for my own life, I just completely wanted to give up. I felt like, when I was on my off hours, so not at the hospital, I would crumble. It was complete darkness, and it was just overwhelming depression. I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know who to ask questions to. I didn't know what my next steps were, and then there's the whole other idea of, do you want to know the full diagnosis? Do you want to know how much time she has left? There were all these things that I also wasn't ready to hear. So I was kind of living in between this, I know what I need to do and I'm going to do it. And I just want to fall apart. So
and I'm sure it was hard for your mother at the beginning also, knowing that you were going to be supporting her the whole time.
Yeah, I think that was, as a single mother, her fear for her whole life. She never wanted me to miss out on anything. She wanted me to leave the house and go have a life and travel and see the world and experience love. And I always, as a child of a single parent, I think it's normal to always want to make sure that they're okay. And I think people who grew up with 2 parents don't really feel that. So on a Saturday night, you're wondering what your parents are doing. I don't think a lot of children feel that way. But that was always like the overarching feeling throughout my whole life. So I think she never voiced that, but I know deep down in my soul that was definitely a fear of hers, that I was going to stop living my life and that this was going to break me also. Yeah.
You got engaged when your mother was ill?
Yes.
And you chose to get married by her bedside. What led to that decision?
That is, to me, one of the, I feel as though God really was walking beside me, even though it was such a turbulent time. And some people may say, like, why has God turned his back on me? For me, even if I didn't know it at times, I feel like he was always just next to me, guiding me. I never wanted to rush my relationship, and I wanted to live with someone before I moved out. And got engaged. And I thought there was always these specific steps you take in life to get to another step. So I was still living at home. I wasn't going anywhere, and I was going to be with my mother until her last day. And I think my husband and I started discussing, what does this look like? Maybe we should just get engaged. We'll get married maybe when she passes, or, we had no idea. So we got engaged, and she was there when he proposed to me. And
she was aware?
She was aware. She had just had a round of chemo. So she wasn't smiling. And I need to preface this by saying the type of person my mom was, like, anyone she met would understand she was special. So when your mother's sitting there and someone asks you to marry them, you expect a normal person to be excited. My mother would have been on another planet, just so overjoyed and
Which she
excited,
was. I think she just
which
wasn't able to express that.
Yes. So not being able to see that on her
Reaction.
face was very difficult.
Mm.
And, you know, almost a year later, I was just sitting next to her in bed, and my husband was my boyfriend at the time was with us. And I just remember feeling this gut instinct, like, we need to get married right now. Like, we don't have time left. Forget the party, forget everybody else. What's important right now is that my mother sees me get married. That was the only thing that mattered. So it was a couple weeks before Passover, and I said to my mother-in-law, we need to plan a wedding, and I need it to be here, and you can only invite your immediate family, and that means just siblings and parents. I need to make sure she's safe, but I'd like to have it be a small celebration. So we had 16 people in our upper duplex, and I went to the rabbi down the street and asked him if he would marry us. And that's when he asked me if I would like to go to the mikvah, and that's when you came into my life. And I'm so thankful you did. And it was just it was the best part of such a dark time. And it just was
the Rebbe
so
spoke
special.
so much about this. When we're going through dark times, we have to bring light.
Yeah.
And I felt like you needed that light so much.
And I feel like it brought light to so many other people's lives, not just in our immediate family,
Right.
but, you know.
It was such a beautiful sight.
Yeah.
I remember seeing those pictures.
Yeah. And we live streamed it so everyone else could, you know, be there with us. But it was so special. And my mom was she was sitting there. She was getting her makeup. The makeup artist said she was the best client he's ever had. She just sat there so still, and she was sleeping, but she got her makeup done. I bought her a dress, and, you know, I bought a wedding dress online, and none of it was what I had envisioned for my life, but I wouldn't have had it any other way. My husband and I speak about this at least once a week. We're like, how grateful are we that
she was present.
She was there, and, you know, she got to see us be married. And then 4 days later, she went into palliative care because she had a seizure, and it was I really believe she held on. And once she knew I was taken care of, it's almost like she was so just ready to let go and be with God, and just she knew she could. Yeah, it was her time. And that's also so otherworldly. How do you not believe, for me, you know, that you have someone watching over you when that's the sequence of events in your life? It feels holy, you know?
Yeah. Tell us about the mikvah. So you went to the mikvah before you got married?
Yes, I did. And anyone who knows me, I feel like would say that is so not in your character. But like I mentioned before, I feel, and this is an afterthought, you know, I feel like water is so healing in my personal life that the fact that I got to do something like that was so special to me. I found a lot of spirituality and relief and calmness and, you know, relaxation in the idea that there's life after this, and that, you know, there's someone that is guiding us through, and that I would see my mother again, because I think that's what I was searching for in spirituality and religion, is something that would make me feel
it's not final.
Yes, exactly. Something that would make me feel at peace with her, with the loss, with such a colossal like loss in my life. So going to the mikvah and really even just having a couple minutes to myself felt so calming. Being in the water is my safe space, so that felt calming. Everyone was so welcoming and so kind to me, and that was a surprise too, because I feel like as someone who's secular, walking into such a space that is so, you know, normal to everyone who comes there, but, you know, is something different for me. I thought I would just kind of be invisible, and I so wasn't. And do you remember someone there offered to take my mother to radiation? It was like, instant community. I mean, where do you find that, right? It was just,
and that's the beauty of the mikvah, is that
Yeah.
people come from all different walks of life.
yeah. And like you said before, I mean, I think we did it quicker than you normally probably do with some of your other brides because we just didn't have time. But like,
we
again,
got it all in.
we got it. Yeah. And you met me where I was at, and you facilitated what I needed while still doing it properly. And, you know, how special is that I, you know, just because I was pressed for time and, you know, had other things that were going on in my life, you still made that happen for me. And I think that was also so special.
I remember how special it was for me to be able to learn with you. And I knew it was such a sensitive time.
Yeah.
And I felt like you were like on this mission. Like you wanted to do this mitzvah, which is one of the mitzvahs that was entrusted to the Jewish woman.
Yeah.
It's one that we do right before we get married. And then we do, once we're married, we go every month. And it's such a special thing to do before you get married. It's really a new beginning, you know, entering a new stage in your life. It's really a time of reflection. It's a time where you really reflect on your life and kind of manifest what you want your life to look like. So I just thought it was so special. Like nothing was getting your way. And I remember even you were sick. Do you remember you were
oh my God,
very, very sick?
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm still going. I don't care if they don't let me in. I'm going.
Yeah.
And you knew that this was a special mitzvah, even though you didn't grow up religious.
Yeah.
You felt it within that this
Exactly.
was something special. Getting married was something special that you wanted to do with your mother. So I thought that was unbelievable.
Yeah.
You gave a eulogy at your mother's funeral, which was the most beautiful thing
Thank you.
I ever heard in my entire life. I remember just being extremely emotional, and you really honored your mother.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, I started off by saying in my eulogy, I have like this impossible task before me to explain the type of woman my mother was. And I still feel like I can't put it into words properly. So I'll remember this for the rest of my life. I sat down in her office, you know, and I just wanted to channel her. And, you know, I was rereading and editing, and it just didn't feel right to me. And I called my husband in and I read it to him, and he was like, it's not it. You know, like, this is not right. It's not it. No. So I took a deep breath and I was like, okay, scrap this, you know. And I think it was one of the only times since she had gotten sick, and even now, that I really can remember what it was like growing up. And I have these like very vivid memories of what it was like growing up. And it just all came flooding to me. And, you know, I've watched it over a couple times since. Yeah. And I feel like it was so her sitting next to me, just speaking through me in one way, and in another way, it felt like growing up. It just felt like being at home with her and laughing and doing the things we love to do. The whole feeling of that eulogy just felt like being home with her. And I don't know how it happened. And it was funny, and it was sad, and it was special. And I think everyone who even didn't know us that well kind of got an idea of what it was like.
I felt connected to your mother.
Yeah,
when I heard
it felt like being at home with us.
Yeah.
And it's another one of those just otherworldly things that have happened through that time of just being in such deep grief that you just I can't explain it to you. And it's also another example of, how do you not believe in God when I'm telling you something like this is happening to me? It's, yeah.
You really honored your mother.
Thank you.
Through and through.
Yeah.
I saw it in action. And that's one of the mitzvahs, one of the 10 commandments. I'm not sure if you're aware of that.
Yeah.
So unbelievable. And the Rebbe was such an example of this, Lubavitcher Rebbe, who honored his parents. He was probably busier than the president.
Yeah.
He had so much mail coming in. He went to sleep extremely late, and he still managed to visit his mother every single day. And you were by your mother's bedside the entire time.
Yeah.
And very, very special. After your mother's passing, I think it was quite early on that you started working at the Friendship Circle.
Yes.
Which is an organization for children with special needs.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that your mother was extremely close with the Rebbetzin in there. And then she reached out to you and was very supportive to you when you were going through everything you were going through.
Yeah.
And what was it like working there in a religious environment, doing such holy work?
Yeah. I mean, my mom, that place meant so much to her. She had such a good relationship with Mr. and Mrs. Paris, both of them. When my mom got sick before she had her surgery, as she was going into surgery, she looked at me and she said, please go right now and go see Mrs. Paris. And I was like, what? Like, that's what you want me to do today, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But my husband and I, we went from the hospital to the Friendship Circle. And they took us in and sat with us and prayed with us and talked to us. And, you know, we talked about different mitzvahs and things I can be doing in my life now and things that I should be implementing. And just, you know, they were such an ear for my husband and I. And that place immediately became a safe space for me. And, you know, throughout my mother's illness, they were both so present when they didn't have to be. So that even that just, you know, left such an impact on my soul. And when my mom passed, I moved in with my husband after I redecorated the whole house. There wasn't much there wasn't much there to begin with, but after all of the redecorating and everything, I had exhausted all of the things I could do. I was not going back to work at my old job. All my friends were working. Shiva had ended. And I was like, what am I doing now? So
it was also like part of your identity.
Exactly. You know,
helping your mother, that became like your full-time job.
Yeah, 100%. So, you know, all of a sudden from being busy 24/7 to having nothing,
all this time on your hands.
You feel an even deeper sense of grief, right? So it just so happened that Seema also called me and said, you know, come visit us. We want to see you. So I went there and she talked me into taking a job. So it was really only a week or two after my mom had passed. So I worked there for a little bit over a year. I mean, just being there and seeing, you know, those individuals every single day and seeing some of the hardships they go through, the hardships their parents go through, the hardships their siblings go through, and they're still smiling ear to ear, so excited to see you every day, so excited to be alive, so excited to—
They're the happiest people.
The happiest people. I mean, how are you not happy from that? So being in an environment that you know you're so deeply supported, no matter what anyone else has going on, they're always thinking about what others need. How can we make everybody else's day better? It just gives you a sense of, you know, family. And I was lacking that at the time, right?
Yeah.
So, it really, it saved a piece of me and gave me a purpose. And, you know, it also made me understand on a daily basis that, you know, other people are struggling too. And
you're not alone.
Yeah, I'm not alone. I don't have to be alone. And we can all just be stronger together. So that was a very special place for me. And even when I was leaving, because I just felt, you know, okay, it's time to find myself again and what I'm really meant to be doing. The way they sent me off was like, you know, even saying goodbye was in some way really happy and special. So it's wonderful.
That was exactly what you needed then.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to go back to when your mom passed away.
Yeah.
To the Shiva period.
Yes.
It was also during COVID.
Yes.
So it was very intimate.
Yeah.
Not many people were able to come. What was that like for you?
It's
sitting
interesting.
Shiva and sitting Shiva alone because
it's very interesting because that was another instance where I felt like, you know, we had an Orthodox rabbi. We're not Orthodox. We, you know, we were around people who were a lot more religious than we are. My mom never sat Shiva for my grandparents. And, you know, I wasn't raised exactly to follow the traditional mitzvahs and, you know, the Jewish processes that we go through. But just, I felt like I was clinging on to my Judaism in a time where I felt like everything was slipping away from me. I just really wanted to do everything I possibly could to just sit in my spirituality and religion. So the Shiva aspect, even though, you know, she had been taken from me, I still felt so strongly in, like, I took such a sense of comfort in my belief in God that the Shiva was, you know, something so important to me. So, you know, the community was there for me as much as, you know, they possibly could be. People were sending so many things, and, you know, the rabbi and the cantor and everyone was really just around us. And it also just brought me further into my Judaism and the comfort that I felt there. So that was also a really special time. I think a lot of people, when they have a loss that is so profound, they question God and they wonder, you know, why should I do all these things?
And did you never question God throughout this whole period?
No, never. I think I felt even closer to him because I was looking for a reason as to why this was happening to me, because there has to be a reason. This can't just be happening for nothing.
Right.
So I fell deeper into the practices and deeper into learning, and it just became so much more important to me, which is, some people think I'm crazy, and, you know,
I certainly don't.
Right. I know you
I mean,
don't.
a little bit, but not in that way.
So I just felt like those practices, there's a reason for my loss, but there's a reason also for these practices, right? They bring you closer to your community. They make you feel less alone. And that's also just what made the process so special for me.
So once you got married and you moved into a new home, and me and my husband came and we put up mezuzahs, what does your home look like? Oh my God. First of all of the things my mother left me, I mean, there's a million. I think I have the biggest collection of Seder plates and Shabbos candles and all of that stuff. And, you know, the mezuzahs that we put up, it made us feel like we were officially in our space and we could start our lives anew, and that we were protected and we could be happy almost. And it also gives you a minute to just sit there and make it your home, you know? That was so special for me. I mean, the fact that you know, led me up into my wedding and now you're welcoming me into my home. It just, it was really important to me. When my mom got sick, I immediately had all the mezuzahs checked. I had like mezuzahs put up where there weren't any. You know, it was also just, when you're walking through your house and you see the mezuzahs in the doorways, it gives you a second to, this is my home. This is a Jewish home. I've settled here. So that's what it means to me, at least. Right.
Yeah.
So you recently had a baby.
Yes.
Who you named after your mom, Esther, her Hebrew name, which is so beautiful. And how has that changed your life? Oh my God. I feel like this child was sent right from my mother. You know, we had a baby naming 2 weeks after my daughter was born. And that was a really important thing for me to do also because, you know, our shul is our community. And I also just wanted her to officially have her name. You know, you get a birth certificate and that's all fun and good, but I really just wanted to hear her be called by her name, which was my mother's name. Which I'm sure was so emotional. It was out of body. It was surreal, you know, to have her be the next generation of what my mother started. You know, I really do believe she sent me this daughter. You know, my husband and I picked out when my mother was in palliative care,
And I knew she only had a couple days left. I said to my husband, I said, we're going to have a daughter. Let's face it here. We need to come up with a name because I need my mother to know her name. Mm-hmm. So Esther was the easy part. That's my mother's English and Hebrew name. Mm-hmm. So I knew that was going to be her Hebrew name, Esther, 100%. But then we came up with Eloise Brooke, which was EB, which was for Esther Buchsbaum. And my husband and we like officially told her, this is our daughter's name. We're naming her after you. I don't know what we were going to do if we had a boy. It would have been something, along those lines. But so when she passed away, I knew she was going to send me a girl. And, isn't that divine? Like
divine providence?
Yeah, it really, really is.
And how has it been raising your daughter without your mother by your side?
Oh, God. I mean, I have some days that are really hard and I just want to scream. And, it's hard watching everybody else raise their kids with their parents and their moms. And, it's even hard for me to see my husband with his parents, because those are memories that they're always going to have. And my mother's never going to meet my daughter on this earth.
Right.
So,
but you've mentioned that you feel your mother's presence.
Oh,
so you feel she's...
Yes, I know she's here and I know she's watching and I know she's laughing at me and I know all of those
and she's
things.
Proud of you.
Yeah, and she's proud of me. And I know she sent me this little girl. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard. And I'm sure it'll never stop being hard. But she gave me all of these tools and she gave me the ability to deal with this. And I also believe that God does not give you what you can handle. So I have the tools and I'm doing it and I'm going to continue to do it. But I have my moments and it's sad because I don't know what she would say to some of these things because they're all new experiences. But I know she's watching and that gives me a great sense of comfort. And
I'm sure purpose also.
Absolutely. But it's hard and it's never going to stop being hard. And
for sure.
I
feel like grief doesn't go away.
No,
people always say like grief time's a healer. And I think about that quite often.
Me too.
And people say also that it's not. And I think it only is if you use that time wisely.
100%.
If you really take action and you do things in their honor and you do meaningful things and purposeful things, then you feel healed.
Yeah.
But if you kind of just let time go by and you ruminate in everything and you think about everything, it's really hard.
Yeah.
And it never goes away.
No.
But you just need to learn how to go through grief and how to grow around grief.
Yes, it really is that. It's growing around it because that hole is always going to be there. I feel like she took a piece of my soul with her, but yeah, it's about growing around the grief and we're supposed to move on with our lives. Right. It's like a scary word, the moving on, but we are supposed to move on with our lives and we're supposed to honor them. But
that's the growing part.
Yeah.
By doing more and connecting more, we are growing around it.
Yeah. Doing things in their name, right?
Mm-hmm. I think it's so important when someone passes away that your life has to be that much more meaningful. You have to do that much more. And I think that's how we grow.
Yeah. Definitely.
And bringing godliness into everything we do.
Yeah. Also, time passing, the concept of time passing. Before I went through grief, you do think that the more time goes on, the easier things get. But for me, that first year, looking back at it from the end of the year was really hard. I didn't feel like I was necessarily in a better place at the end of that year. And I've done a ton of grief groups.
Which is so important to get the support you need.
Yes, absolutely. And, everyone always says, when is it going to end? When am I going to feel better?
It's never going to end.
And a lot of the people that I've seen sit in that grief and not get better is because, again, they're not.
You have to step out of it in a way.
Yes, they're not stepping out of it. And that's what makes it so difficult. But if you are doing things and trying to learn, and I think that's why I stepped into this space, because getting the tools from other people, talking about it, really looking at why I'm feeling certain ways and really understanding that these processes are so normal. Mm-hmm. Once you realize that other people are feeling the same way, it does help you move on, and it does help you.
It's also not like a linear process. It's all over the map.
Yeah, and it's hard to think about time passing and you're getting farther away from the last time you saw that person, the last time you held their hand. It makes it almost harder for time to keep going on. Mm-hmm. But it's really all about perspective. And again, that sense of community. If you have a community and you're not alone, that is half the battle. It really makes such a huge difference. And I think that's why I leaned so into Judaism, because that was the community that was available to me. And that's the community that's always been in my life. So instead of walking away from it, leaning into that, it healed me very deeply.
Mm-hmm. I know when my father passed away, I thought I was taking a sabbatical.
Yeah. How did that work out for you?
It lasted a day.
No, yeah.
But I really thought that's what I needed to do.
Yeah.
And then opportunities just kept presenting themselves. And I realized right then and there that what I'm meant to be doing is to be pushing myself and stepping out of it. And it's helped me so much. And every day it's hard work. And I find that's the hardest part of it, is because I am pushing myself. But every time I push myself and I do something meaningful, I feel that much more connected to my father. And everything I do is in my father's honor.
Exactly.
And it's almost that that motivation, that it's not just about me anymore.
Yeah.
That I have to continue like emulating him and doing everything that he would have done and wanted me to do. And I find that's been tremendous.
But isn't that so wild that at a time where you think you know what's best for you,
we never know.
There's a reason for everything. And that is why I'm still sitting here, breathing, living, smiling, doing well. It's because there's a reason for everything. They're up there guiding us to what we need. And you're exactly where you need to be.
Right.
Even though you wouldn't have maybe gotten there on your own.
Mm-hmm. I think it's also, we're always looking for Hashem, for God, but God really reveals himself every day to us in countless ways.
Yes.
So we just need to look for those moments and we need to connect to it. And that's when we feel the most in touch.
Yeah. It's crazy. Because sometimes I say to my friends, like, how do you not believe when... Don't you see this is a sign, this is a sign, this is a sign?
You have to be open to it.
You really do have to be open to it, because if you're closed off, the magic doesn't happen there. The magic happens when you're really open and you're willing to accept what the world is giving you. Mm-hmm. That's where the magic happens.
Right. So you're exploring work in bereavement and counseling and helping support others who are going through grief. Mm-hmm. Tell me all about it.
Yes. So after I finished with the Friendship Circle, there is a nonprofit. It's called Hope and Cope. And I think it's Montreal-based.
Yes.
They work out of a hospital in Montreal called the Jewish General.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, Jewish General Hospital.
General?
Yes.
The Jewish General Hospital. I'm there once a week, I should know. And they also have a house that they work out of down the street.
The Wellness Center.
The Wellness Center, yes. You're familiar with all that stuff.
Very
also,
familiar.
Right?
Yes.
So when my mother was in palliative care, first of all, the idea of palliative care, when that CLSC nurse came, CLSC, what do I, yeah. When the nurse came to our home to discuss palliative care, I about lost my mind. I was so scared that she was going to die the next day. I was so not open to palliative. I didn't want anyone to bring it up to me. I did her such a disservice by turning them away. And I think it's partly because people do not discuss palliative care in the proper way. But I wasn't open to it because it was something that seemed scary to me. And
how was it like? How did they discuss it to you? Like, how would you?
Well, your mother's terminal, so I think it's time to discuss palliative care. So to me, it was just like furthering her death sentence and really just cementing it. And I wanted to do everything to save her. So it wasn't until her last month that I was very aware she was not going to make it past the next couple of weeks. And someone came down from palliative care to the emergency to talk to us. And that person honestly changed the course of my life. And it was the most special thing.
How did they change your life? What did they say?
So the doctor, his name was Dr. Zigbee. He came and, expressed his condolences, which no one had ever done in the 16 months my mother was sick. Said, I'm sorry for what you're going through. I understand what you're going through. This is not easy. Mm-hmm. So immediately I was just a little bit, okay, like, let's see where this goes. He took me on a tour of the wing and, really took the time to learn about my mother, to ask me personal questions, to ask us what we needed, which no one had done. So I agreed to move her to the palliative wing. And I lived there for the month. I didn't go home. They gave us a room with an extra bed, and I slept in that bed next to her for 31 days. And it was the most healing experience for me to be able to finally not only be her caregiver, but to be her daughter. I didn't have to worry about her medications. I didn't have to worry about getting her round-the-clock care. I didn't have to worry about changing diapers. I didn't have to worry about showering her.
You were able to take in those precious moments.
Yeah.
They're like sacred at the end.
Absolutely. So I was able to hold her hand and lie next to her and just be a 26-year-old human being who was going through something horrible. And the nurses were phenomenal. And that's where Hope and Cope comes in. So they are on the palliative care unit. They come by, they sit there, they talk to you. They give the patients hand massages, foot massages. They give out blankets and scarves and hats. And, Hope and Cope does a lot more, but, just on the palliative care unit with my experience,
right.
They came by and they brought me water and they brought me ice cream and they brought me a glass of wine at the end of the day.
And you were so moved by this that now you want to do the same.
And I just could not believe the type of care we were getting after 16 months of, just the medical system treating us like we were just another family and just, other patients. So it was such a breath of fresh air. So after we left there and I worked at the Friendship Circle for a year, I just couldn't stop thinking about how much they had helped me, and also a bit of a curiosity about going back and just stepping into that grief a little bit and seeing, okay, like, how do I feel walking through these halls that were really, the last days of my mother's life. So I went back and I peeked into a room, which was empty at the time, which never happens. But, I sat there for a couple minutes and I just, I felt nothing but peace there, which is also very odd because most people wouldn't be able to return to the place where they lost the most important person in their lives. So, I just felt very peaceful there. So I went to the social worker who works at Hope and Cope, and her name is Rivka Hanfling. And she interviewed me and I started going once a week and, doing the same thing that was done for me for other families. And
so you feel this desire to give back.
Yeah, it was the most meaningful experience. And, from there I started doing bereavement calls and going to grief groups as a participant, learning about grief, and then, just talking about my mom and myself and what I was going through that day and connecting with other people who had lost their people in palliative care from cancer and, really just making strong connections. And then I started co-facilitating those groups and meeting even more people. And I went to a kind of a conference that they were having at the hospital on palliative care. And one of the doctors were talking about end of life doulas. And I was like, okay, I know of birthing doulas, but I've never heard of an end of life doula. So I went home and I started researching, and it just felt like this was my calling. Like, this is exactly what I'm meant to do. This makes sense. This connects with palliative, and I'm talking to people every day, and I'm meeting people, and I could really facilitate how people go through the grief process. So it just felt so right. So I found a course at the University of Vermont, and it was 6 weeks during my first trimester, which was the worst possible time to be doing it. But it got me out of bed, and it got me, again, something like this
to distract you sometimes,
kind of saving my life,
Yeah.
Instead of just being in bed and wallowing. And, I took this course, and I also met new people through there. And it just, my like small grief community just kept growing and growing.
And this is something you're going to do once you're done your maternity
leave?
Yeah.
So once I'm done maternity leave, I would love to start my own little, practice and help people who have had their loved ones, be diagnosed as terminal, and help them navigate. Because if I had leaned into palliative care when it was first offered to me, again, in the wrong way, but if I had leaned into it, I could have saved my mother so much pain, so much grief, so much, we could have had so many more resources. And if there had been anyone out there who I knew who could have walked me through that process, I would have jumped at the opportunity. So, it's something that I feel like needs to be out there and needs to be spoken about, because everyone is going to lose someone that
Absolutely.
they love.
It's inevitable.
I
think it's also so important for the listeners that, sometimes we have these bad experiences in the hospitals.
Yeah.
And it's so important for everyone else to feel this sense of responsibility that anyone that's going through a hard time, they just need the support. They need the love. They need the connection.
Yes, absolutely.
Because they might not be getting it elsewhere.
Right. And there's so many things you're balancing when you're in the throes of grief.
Yeah.
You're balancing the people in and out. You're balancing the appointments. You're balancing, the medications. It's so much.
And most people don't realize unless you've gone through it.
Exactly. Right. So whether someone has terminal cancer, whether someone is elderly, people are going to get to the end of their lives, and a lot of people don't know what to do. A lot of people don't have anyone around them either to sit with them on their last days. And I've seen it so many more times than you would think. So many people ask me, like, everyone has family members that are coming to see them, right? And a lot of people are alone. So I think if there's other options out there for people to navigate this really complicated and difficult and emotional process, I would love to be there to walk them through that.
I'm sure you'll be amazing.
I hope so.
You will. And I also want to know, what practices in Judaism do you feel were the most comforting to you, or still the most comforting to you?
Oh,
because you're still grieving, right? It's only been 3 years, right?
So I think my whole Jewish life really flipped when my mom got sick. I started waking up and praying every morning. I was saying the Amidah. I was going through, like, Sima Paris gave me a little sitter, and I was going through it like front to back, just like speaking to God. I don't do that every single day anymore. I light Shabbos candles every Friday. It might not be at the right time ever, but
I'll send you the right time.
Can you please? I'm exhausted. So, I light Shabbos candles. I say the prayer over the challah. I try to incorporate these small things. Hanukkah, I'm lighting the candles. I'm lighting memorial candles. We go to shul on high holidays. After my mom passed away, I was going to shul and saying the Kaddish for her. Just little things that I can incorporate into my life.
And your husband supported you throughout this whole time.
Oh my God.
Has he become more interested?
Yeah, completely. It's his level of spirituality has really, really deepened and grown. because I don't think I could also sit next to someone every single day now and, say, oh, do you see that sign? Like, don't you feel my mother around? And have my partner say like, oh no, like that's, you're crazy. You're seeing things. It's wishful thinking. So I think we really grew together because the night my mom passed away, it was 3 a.m. and we were driving home and it was pitch black outside, but the birds were singing. And we both looked at each other and it just felt like she had reached heaven and God was welcoming her. It just felt like she had arrived and she was saying to us like, I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it just also felt special because we were together in that moment and it deepened our marriage also. So
unfortunately, when we go through things,
yeah,
it usually does.
Right?
You know?
So it just felt, yeah.
It became more real, I think, after.
Absolutely. So, those small practices that
save us. They really do save us.
Exactly. That I can incorporate in my life. And it also, again, to your point of saying that we carry our loved ones through our everyday lives, it gives me a moment to stop and think about my mother. And it in the
Keeps her
future,
memory alive.
It'll give me a moment to stop and talk to my daughter about my mother. So that's also keeping their memory alive. And these are things she did, and these are things my grandparents did, and these are things their parents did. And we're doing it with their stuff. So, having that Chanukiah that has been in my family for generations, it means more because it was theirs and they touched it. And it just brings these Jewish practices to life for me almost.
I think the most beautiful thing about Judaism is that it's not over when someone passes away, that their memory lives on, it's eternal, and that we can continue to strengthen our relationship.
Exactly.
I feel like since my father passed away, our relationship intensified.
Right.
And I do feel his presence even more than before.
Yeah.
And it's like even the Rebbe. I never met the Rebbe,
but
went to the Ohel today.
Yeah.
His resting place. I feel so connected.
Yeah.
Because I'm engaging in this relationship. I'm learning about the Rebbe. I'm learning and growing from his teachings.
Yeah. I mean, even someone who's secular, being someone who went there for the first time today to the Ohel, it even felt, it really did feel like a coming home almost. Like you're in a space with other Jewish people who are there also just trying to live their lives and do the best they can. And, and we're just all together.
We're all going through this together.
Yeah,
we're all
exactly.
struggling. We're all challenged. We all have setbacks.
Yeah. And that deepens my belief even further. So, yeah.
If you could share one message for someone going through what you went through, grief, loss, challenges, what would that message be?
First, I would say it gets better. It really gets better.
Because we get better.
Yeah, exactly. You think you are, never going to smile again, never be happy again. But you have to keep going. You really have to keep going because everything happens for a reason. And there's people you can't see behind you. So just keep going. That's really what I would say. That idea has really helped me keep going. I would also say they're still with you. I wish people who questioned that leaned into,
physically they're not here, but their soul is here.
Yeah. Your loved ones don't just disappear, something that's, and I think I said that in my eulogy, like something that strong doesn't just go away or disappear. Like it's not possible.
Right. So you mentioned after your mother passed away, that first year obviously was so challenging. I can't imagine being her caregiver was easy.
No.
And I know you had really hard moments, but what did those hard moments really look like? And how did you help yourself in those hard moments? Because I know you were amazing to your mom. So you had to have some sort of tools to keep going and to show up for your mother. Yeah.
So, I mean, I was heavier at the end of caregiving.
Emotionally heavy? Or physically heavy
than I was at 9 months pregnant.
Okay.
I sat next to her every single day for 16 months. I left her bedside twice. Again, if I could talk to myself back then, I would say you need to take care of yourself, because self-care is so important in that caregiving journey. Because if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of someone else.
Right.
Caregiving burnout is so real.
It's very real.
It's exhausting, especially dealing with someone who is not in their right mind, because, her cancer was in her brain. And
Was she difficult at moments with you?
Yeah. She was not the person I knew. I always say I lost my mother the second that doctor came into the room. She was angry. She was verbally abusive, things that were just so not in her character. And it hurt me. I took it personally, even though I knew it wasn't her talking. It was the cancer talking.
But it's hard to separate sometimes.
It's
in
exhausting.
Those moments.
So when you're giving your life to someone like so fully, and, they're not saying thank you or I love you, or, we're not laughing, it feels that much heavier to be doing the work. And yeah, it's all encompassing. So even sleep is work, it's waking up every God knows how many times to make sure she's breathing, she's not having a seizure, she's comfortable, she's, all those things.
It's like a newborn baby, right?
No, it's harder.
It's harder.
It's harder than a newborn. I've done both now, and it's much harder than a newborn. It's changing her, feeding her, making sure she has everything.
You were always doing this on your own, or you did have some support here and there?
No, we had amazing caregivers round the clock, because and that
you needed it.
Part of my self-care also. I needed to go to sleep, and I needed to turn her over, and I needed to make sure she was 100%, so we had amazing caregivers, and they're still in my life now. And one of my mother's daytime caregivers, she just was our night nurse. So
that's so special.
Yeah, it was very special.
Did you ever lose patience with your mom?
Oh my God. And those are the moments I look back on now, and they give me a little pang of guilt, sadness. Those are the things that stick with me. And I tell myself, you were going through it for the first time also.
And you were so young.
And I was young, I remember crying to a nurse and saying, like, I'm 25 years old. This is my only parent, my only relative, my whole world, my best friend, and she's dying. And I'm alone. And, caregiving is just, it's so nuanced, and there are so many things you have to carry with you. And you don't come home from that job and let it go, It's something you carry with you every second of that day. So I, picked up a few bad habits, and I lost my patience, and
which is all normal.
Yeah. And I wasn't kind to myself. And that is why I find end of life caregiving and palliative work so important, because I really needed someone in that moment to tell me, this is normal. You're okay. Take a break.
Did you have support while you were going through it?
Absolutely. Therapy, but then again, it was COVID, and everything was virtual, and I was scared to let anyone in. I didn't want anyone near my mother. And, so also no one really was living it like I was. My husband was right there, and he got a lot of the anger, and
he still
no
stayed
patience,
by you.
And he's
true love.
Really, and he stood by me through it all. But no one was doing it like I was doing it, and that's also isolating. So if I had someone who said, I've been in your shoes, I can empathize with what you're going through, this is normal, walk away, take a break. I wouldn't do it any other way, but I would have loved the perspective. So again, circling back to self-care, that is the number one and most important thing you can do as a caregiver, because you're going to be better for it. And I know if I had just washed my face in the morning and put on moisturizer, I might have been kinder.
Of course.
You know?
Often people think self-care is selfish.
Yeah.
Right?
It's in the name. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so important to take care of yourself, to nurture yourself, to be able to show up for someone else. You have to fill up your cup.
Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't have done anything differently. I would have still sat by her. I soaked in every single moment I had with the most important person in my life. But I could have gotten my nails done.
I don't think you could have. It was during COVID.
Yeah.
No one would want to do that.
Yeah, no. But, you know, self-care is paramount.
And self-care, like you're talking about nails, but it's not just nails.
No.
It's like self-care.
Yes.
Like nurturing yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and being kind to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, because often I know for myself, I also lost patience here and there, and I felt tons and tons of guilt.
You're only human.
But I remember speaking through it with people and realizing it was normal. But if I was too scared to speak out, I would be like living in terrible guilt. I would still be holding on to that.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. It was.
And we learn through everything we go through. I feel like now, because of what I went through, I am more patient.
Right.
And I realize how important it is for them.
Yeah.
And we want to give them the best care when they're going through it, that we sometimes can make them feel uneasy. So we much have to take care of ourselves, be our best selves, as hard as it is during that time, to be able to be there for them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's bringing me back. Yeah. It's a lot. It's not easy. It's like the hardest. It's the hardest thing in the world to take care of someone that you love when they're at their absolute worst and cross boundaries of what your relationship used to be like also.
But I think there's no greater honor to take care of someone who took care of you your entire life.
Yeah.
And think about how hard it is for people to take care of people that they don't necessarily have a good relationship with, but they feel this sense of responsibility.
Yeah. There's so many different sides of caregiving.
Right. It's so dynamic.
Yeah. Every relationship is different. So yeah, it's God's work. Yeah.
God's way for sure. Your mother at the very beginning, when she was first diagnosed with cancer and she knew she was terminal.
Yeah.
Did she like share anything with you or guide you in any way? Like, how did she deal with it?
I think immediately she shut down. She was always the strongest person in every single room. I didn't even see her cry when her parents passed away. I didn't see her cry when her friends passed away. She was always just like a pillar of strength because she had to be. You know, she was an only child also, so she walked through life like largely alone. So for her to suddenly need someone was probably so devastating to her. I mean, she never vocalized that, but I feel it in my bones. She must have been so devastated that after worrying about me for so long and just trying to take care of me, that I had to put my life on pause and take care of her. It's also so interesting to think of the caregiving perspective from the person who needs care. No one wants to be looked after in that manner. Treated like a child. It's devastating. So when you're losing your patience, you also have to think of the other person has completely given up everything. They're completely helpless. None of us want to do that. Everyone always says, if I'm a vegetable, if I'm unable to care for myself, let me go.
Right. But that's actually not the Jewish way.
Really?
Right.
I mean, well, hello. And we
do everything in our power to keep someone alive.
Yeah. That does make me feel a little bit better about my experience.
Because the soul is so sacred,
a
Jewish soul.
Yeah.
And we trust, like you said, there's a reason. We can't always understand God's ways, right? God's
That's
infinite. We're finite, and it's a really hard thing to grapple.
Yeah.
But we really trust if they're alive, there's a reason, and they deserve the best of the best.
That's really interesting because, you're keeping someone alive who is in so much pain and suffering. And you do wonder sometimes, am I doing the right thing? Because it felt right to me, but it didn't look right to her, what was going on. So it's, again, leaning into those Jewish ideals and values and tenets,
right?
That really, you're looking for wisdom, it's right there.
Right. There's so much uncertainty in those times.
Yeah.
Always. And that's the beauty of Judaism, is
Yeah.
that we have everything we need to guide us. It's like our GPS.
No, exactly.
You know, and whenever we're not sure about something,
Yeah.
we have the Torah.
Yeah.
We have big, unbelievable rabbis that we could reach out to that guide us.
Yeah.
And so we feel when we're doing something, we're doing the right thing, even though it might not seem like the right thing. And it like kind of sometimes feels like we're going against the grain and there's a lot of background noise.
Yeah.
You really have to trust yourself and be confident to do the right thing.
Yeah. And how important that is. When I lost my main sounding board and my main, compass.
That Hashem stepped in, that
Right.
God stepped in.
And I felt like, okay, there's still something pulling me in the right direction. I know I can't speak to her anymore, but there's still something pulling me. So that's also the beauty of Judaism, and also why I felt the need to lean into my Judaism, because I felt lost and I needed someone to guide me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you visit your mother often? Do you go to the graveside ever?
Oh, yes. So
she's your neighbor, I believe.
yes, she is my neighbor. She keeps pulling me back. I walk through there with my daughter, and I mean, I'm thinking people must think I'm crazy walking through a cemetery with a stroller, but I felt the same type of peace when we went to the Ohel this morning. It's just, it feels sacred. It feels comforting. It feels relaxing to me. And that's weird. And people laugh and say like, oh, you love hospitals, you love cemeteries, you love talking about palliative. That's where I'm comfortable.
Right.
Because I think it also reminds me that I'm not alone and I don't have to live without her, and it's peaceful and it's quiet and it's, that sacred space. I could be in my apartment and, have quiet, but it's not the same thing. It gets me outside. It's grounding. It's, and it gives me a couple minutes to just remember, which is, the only thing I have left really is my memories. So yeah, it's very healing. It's very peaceful.
I think just going back to this idea that God guides us. And I think it's incredible that during the grief process, we're guided, because it's so easy to just fall apart.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times people feel this guilt when they've moved on or they're happy. But in Judaism, we're actually meant to be besimcha. And there's really a time and place for grieving, right? From like the very beginning, from the first days to the Shiva to the Shloshim, which is the 30 days after.
Yeah.
And then the entire year and the unveiling. Like there's just so many milestones that we need to go through.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important, because at a certain stage, you feel this resilience, you feel this strength, and you feel like, okay, I'm almost like graduated to the next stage. And again, it's still hard and it's always going to be hard, but we do feel like we have the tools to go through it. And just knowing that it's inevitable. I keep reminding myself that everyone's going to go through this in one time or another. It's part of life. And once we accept life and we accept God's plan, it just makes it easier.
Yeah.
So I think it's so important, all these different stages that we go through, and to learn about them as you're going through. I know for me, this is all brand new.
Yeah. And
there's so many incredible books and resources out there that really help you through it all.
Yeah. I mean, it's again, the fact that everyone's going to have to go through this. It's painful, but the resources are so important. And I know I've used you as a resource so many times, and you having me over for Shabbat with my husband and introducing me to new people. And, it's just so interesting how God guides us, because there's a reason I met you and there's a reason you introduced me to other people. And, someone I met through you is now a mom friend of mine. And, there's just a reason for everything. And we need to just dive into our community, because it helps heal everything.
Right. We need to be present, and we need to stop resisting so much that comes our way. We just have to kind of go through it. As hard as it is. Life's not meant to be easy.
No, it's also, my mom worked so hard for so many years so that I could have a life For what? For my grief to make me crumble?
Right.
That is the opposite of everything she's ever wanted in her whole life. So as much as I punish myself for losing my patience and for maybe making a decision that I now today wouldn't have made.
But you grew from it. And now you could help others make the proper decisions.
Exactly. There was a lesson that needed to be learned there. And maybe that is the reason for her sickness. My aunt always tells me, why did this happen? What's the reasoning for this? Why would God allow this to happen to us? And I really do believe that there was a lesson I needed to learn. There was a lesson my mother needed to learn. There was a lesson my husband needed to learn. There was a lesson my aunt needed to learn. Everyone's taking something out of this, even though it is so dark and painful. Everyone's learning something from this. And maybe there was something my mother needed to know in this lifetime that she didn't learn last lifetime. And, it helps our soul move to the next level and grow and prosper and just so that we can be better.
Absolutely. And even when times are hard, even to go back to those memories.
Yes.
And sometimes you have to close your eyes, and sometimes at the very beginning it's hard to remember.
Yeah.
But
it's hard for me to remember still.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's because you have baby brain also.
I hope so.
Yeah. I think it's going to come back.
Yeah.
And there's the videos and the pictures and so much that you kept. And I think it's so important. I think that's what helps people also is just, reliving those moments that were so special and all the lessons that were learned and, just being so grateful for having those people in our lives.
Yes.
And gratitude is so important for healing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I do feel gratitude, honestly. I'm thankful I went through that time in my life. I'm grateful that I came out of it. I'm grateful for the blessings I've received, maybe because I was so low. And yeah.
And I think you're such an example to so many people. You really,
thank you.
Embody resilience.
I try to, because that's everything my mother was. So, I just
giving your mother a lot of nachas.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah.
Well, did I tell you about when Seema brought one of those boys?
No, tell me.
Yeah. So we were in the hospital and Mrs. Paris brought by a young man who is blind and he has special needs.
Joshua Ben Lolo?
Yes. And he sat by my mother's bedside and he sang to her. And I was just so overwhelmed with emotion. Someone who's going through their own struggles on a day-to-day basis, schlepped from God knows where to come see us, to sing to us. It just, it felt, we were really like, I was so overjoyed and touched. And it was just such a special moment. And even just hearing Hebrew at a time where it felt very powerful and moving also. It just, there were so many levels to that it was just healing on so many levels. And they would send, drawings. A little boy who also had special needs, who had just lost his father, drew a couple pictures for my mother and I. And it just puts everything into perspective that even when, you're at your lowest, you could still
make a difference
in someone's life.
Right.
And it's a huge difference.
Right.
That what that was in my head for 3 straight weeks of seeing that on the fridge every day, and I can't believe someone else was thinking of me, and it brings you out of the darkness.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
I think it's something we keep revisiting, but I think kindness is everything.
It really is.
It's such a big part of healing.
I say to my
people
daughter,
checking in on you, people calling you.
Yeah.
Even especially when, it's been so long and people, unfortunately, it's just the reality of life that people are so busy and people genuinely care, but people are very consumed in their own lives.
Yeah.
And for many people, it's a distant memory.
Yeah, exactly.
But for you, it's like so raw. Even like 6 months and 3 years later.
It's like my reality.
So when people still check in on you, I'm sure you have certain friends,
I
hope,
course,
that check in on you on Mother's Day or, those moments.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it just touches your heart and it really helps you in those moments. So I think it's
really
important, whoever's listening, to really just think of anyone in need.
Check in on your friends.
You have to check in. It's
check in on people you're not friends with. Just, if you're thinking of someone, how do you think they would feel to hear that you were thinking of them? It goes so far, such a long way, and it it's never wrong to do the right thing, you know?
Right.
So someone says, oh, that's so weird.
Right.
No one's going to say, that's so weird that person checked in on me.
Right.
It's never wrong to do the right thing. And it makes such a difference in someone's life. I try to do one nice thing a day, even if it's just keeping my mouth shut.
That's really,
trying to do one
words
nice
are
thing a day.
powerful.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah. Speaking kindly is huge.
Yeah, exactly. I tell my daughter every single day. I know she can't understand me
She
yet,
understands.
but I say,
she understands.
yeah, I say, you're going to grow up and you're going to be a kind girl. You're going to be kind to others. And that's my mother always told me, to be nice to people who look like they really, really need it. So I try to just
right. I think you have to be
instill
kind to
that.
everyone because you never know what someone's going through.
Exactly.
Right?
That
a lot of people have
is-
silent
yeah,
battles.
big time.
So that's why we have to be
People say to
sensitive.
me all the time, you're so loud, you're so, full of life and you seem so happy, but
You
I have
your
moments.
too.
I'm
You're
not
human.
happy all the time. I'm sad and I'm frustrated and I'm angry and I'm all those things. But, that doesn't mean I don't need you to check in on me and ask me if I'm okay. It's important to check in on the people that you think are the strongest sometimes also.
100%. And since your mother passed away, like, what's the hardest thing for you? Is there like a certain milestone or?
Yeah, I mean, though that first year of milestones is so rough. I can imagine you know what I'm talking about. First birthdays, first holidays, first, year on the nose of you being gone, first everything. And now I have a kid and that's the first time I'm doing anything of the sort. And, my first year of marriage and first vacation with my husband. And, it could have nothing to do with her, but it has everything to do with her. So every milestone is hard. But then as time goes by and you learn how to incorporate them into these new memories. So I'm writing a baby book for my daughter and I'm trying to, get every moment that I was pregnant and every moment.
How much milk cost?
How much milk cost and what the movie of the month was the month she was born, And I take time to have a couple pages in that book and remind her what a person her bubby was and how I'm raising her using the lessons that I learned from her. So, moving on and growing through grief is also really about how do I make new memories with the person that's not here anymore. So I really do try to incorporate her into everything I do.
Was there any moments or triggers? People mean well. I genuinely believe that.
Yeah.
But sometimes people say things,
Yes.
they don't think it through.
Yeah.
And it could be very hurtful. Was there anything anyone said to you that you remember that was really
Yes.
painful?
Yes.
I guess to help the listeners to be careful with what they say to people that are going through such a hard time.
Yeah. I mean, I probably shouldn't give examples because these people will
Don't
know
use
exactly
names. Don't use
who
names.
No,
that's Lashon Hara.
Yeah. Oh, I know
Gossip.
about that.
Okay,
But
yeah.
people will know exactly what they said because, it's not so much when she died, even when we were going through the process. There was a family member, I spoke to her for an hour on the phone and I felt so good after I spoke to her. And I was, so thankful that they sat there and listened to me for that hour. And, they ended up saying, well, now my night's gone. And it was little things like that, like,
like you took up space, you took up
you
time.
took up my space, you took up my time. Oh, well, there's nothing we can do for you, so I'm sorry. Or she's terminally ill, she's going to die, there's nothing I can do for you. Or, we learn a lot in the palliative space that there's so many different little things that people say every day when there have been losses that are big no-nos.
What's a big no-no?
I know what you're going through. That seems very, normal to say to someone.
Mm-hmm.
But as a person who is going through a loss, you don't know what I'm going through. You don't know. You probably don't have a relationship like I had this relationship.
And even if you did, every loss is unique. You can't compare.
And it's very hard to reprogram your brain to say, I can empathize with you. I understand what you must be feeling at a time like this, but everyone's grief is different. So even I have trouble with that, and I can understand how that could be hurtful. People saying like, oh, you're over it now. No, I'm not over it. I'll never be over it. It's not easy. It's traumatizing and all those
It's also
things.
exhausting having to justify yourself to other people.
You know, I say a lot of the time, like, I'm lonely. Well, you have so many people around you. How could you be possibly lonely?
Because you're missing such a big part of you.
Right. You know, just people not validating how you're feeling when what you're feeling, regardless of what you're feeling, is valid because your loss is unique and you feel it. So, I mean, and I don't want anyone to be scared to try to be there for someone, but honestly, just physically being there and having that person know that you're physically there is enough. And if you don't know what to say, you don't have to say anything. And that is so important because that person that needs your support is fine with you just being there and showing up, because showing up is like 99% of the battle. If you don't know what to say, don't say anything because it's confusing.
We talk about this during Shiva.
Yeah.
You know, when someone's going through Shiva, which is probably different than how you grew up or how I grew up or how even my father's Shiva was. Yeah. But really the way, which I think would have been so helpful if that was the way it was when I was going through it, is you're not supposed to say anything. You're not even supposed to greet them. You're just supposed to be there. Just your presence is so powerful. Just knowing that you came, and it's a mitzvah to go to a Shiva. See,
there's so many things that I'm even learning now about Judaism by talking to you, by talking to, you know, people in my life. There's concepts that I've internalized through the grief process that are lessons I've learned that are actual Jewish values and lessons that they come up even when you and I are talking so much. Oh, I believe this. Oh, well, this is a Jewish principle.
It's within you.
It isn't that otherworldly also. They're innately within me as a Jewish person, but they're so comforting. And if I had maybe leaned into my identity before going through grief, I would have had more in my toolkit to walk through the grief with.
You could share those tools with others.
And that's the point of all of this, right? Is that now I want to make sure that other people don't walk through these experiences without these principles and, you know, lessons that are so healing in and of themselves.
I think something we didn't discuss, but I think it's so important when you're going through grief to have healthy boundaries.
Oh, right? Yeah. Which I feel like I had no healthy boundaries when I was going through what I was going through, which is also something so important that like is the work of a doula, is letting people know that that's a healthy thing to do.
Right. A lot of people have a hard time saying no.
Yeah.
You know, people want to come visit and you're like, they want to come visit. I'm like, no, they don't have to come visit.
I know.
If it's not going to work for you and it's not going to serve you, in those moments, it's part of self-care that we discussed earlier. It's taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I know there's some people that would visit and just take up so much space. And that's not healthy.
You in those moments.
Yeah. And that's not healthy for anyone. But you get to go home and say, oh, I'm so happy I got that off my chest. But we're left with, oh, she's so sad for our situation. It brings no light to our darkness, you know? So the boundaries thing, that's also something that, you know, is very important for caregivers and for family members to remember, because caregiving is not just a day job, you know, you carry that with you. So setting up those healthy boundaries is going to help you caregive longer.
Yeah. To know your worth, to know your value, but to be humble at the same time.
Yeah.
But sometimes people are too humble that they step back and they don't use their voice and they don't make such a difference. So you have to step out of yourself and realize it's not really me. Yeah. God's giving me this energy. Yes. God's giving me this gift. God's giving me this strength to do what I need to do.
Yes.
To just always remember who's in charge. To have that awareness, that's how it humbles you, but still do good.
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking about my tzedakah box that I bought today. Put that at home.
So you have to give tzedakah every single day.
Yeah.
Every single morning.
I try
just be a little something.
Yeah.
We're so happy to have you.
Thank you.
You were so fun to
Always
talk
love
to.
Chatting with you.
Even though it's such a sensitive topic, it was really nice talking to you, and I learned so much from everything you've gone through. Thank you. It feels good to talk about this and to have somewhere to talk about it that maybe other people can listen to and continue this conversation.
Yeah, and take a little bit of like solace from.
Can people reach out to you? Where can people find you?
Oh, yeah. Oh my God, where could people find me? I don't know.
Because people are going to want to connect to you after they hear this podcast. You need to have some sort of platform.
No. I don't know.
Now's your time to shine.
I guess
Tell everyone.
I guess Instagram. It's just Morgan Buchsbaum.
Okay.
Yeah. But I love talking to people about this. Everyone always asks me, is this okay to ask? Is this a sensitive topic? And I'm very open, and it's healing for me to talk about my experience and to, share that with others and to connect on a deeper level like that. So I love everything.
Sharing is caring, I always say.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, what a story. I wanted to add a couple of notes after reflecting on this episode. First, an important disclaimer about this podcast in general. This podcast features honest, personal stories that may include how someone engaged with Jewish practice, law, or traditions. The personal details of a guest's story are not meant to serve as religious rulings or instructions. Jewish law is complex, and what applies to one person may not apply to another. If you're looking for guidance on how Jewish law relates to your own life, we encourage you to reach out to a rabbi who can speak to your unique situation. I loved having Morgan on the podcast. I've had the privilege of knowing her for the last few years, and I just knew we had to share her special energy with the rest of you. Morgan has this beautifully positive way of looking at life, even through experiencing very real tragedy. It brings to mind this challenging idea from Hasidic philosophy that talks about how just as we bless God wholeheartedly for the good, we're meant to bless him with the same full heart when we experience difficulty. This doesn't come naturally to most of us, but like Morgan, when we choose to look for it, we can indeed find God's hand intimately involved even in the most painful of circumstances. That doesn't mean we always get the miracle we pray for, but it's a reassurance that when we experience painful circumstances, it is not as a result, God forbid, of God ignoring us, forgetting us, or not loving us. Although we ask for only easy to see good for our families and loved ones, God, like a loving parent, stays with us through it all. We ourselves can be the light that God sends to others in their times of darkness by reaching out and giving back in the ways we were given to. Being the light for others can help strengthen our own healing and resilience. Is a reminder that even in the darkest moments, we're not alone. And sometimes the greatest miracle is becoming that reminder for someone else. Thank you, Morgan, for sharing your story. See you again soon on Hand in Hand.